Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. But welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. Was it because Sakutoro was a special stuffed animal? Because her mother had made it herself. Because it was very, very cute. Probably not. If there's a secret here, it doesn't lie within Sakutaro. I think it probably lies within Maria One-chan. This is the power of magic you were talking about, Maria One-chan. Ooh? Knowing magic means that you notice a lot of friends right beside you that you didn't notice before. It's as fun as having a bunch of new toy shops pop up all over the neighborhood. If even I, locked up in an academy without a single friend, had power like Maria One-chan, I wonder if I could make my days just a bit richer. I wonder if I'll be able to honestly shed tears on nights I feel like crying, to smile on gray nights. Yes, you can. You can do it. You can do it. After all, you also have what it takes to become a witch. What it takes to become a witch. I have what it takes to become a witch too. So, I've still got a lot more studying and training to do. I'll definitely become a wonderful witch, flying in the sky in a broom, drawing rainbows with my cane, making candy fall from the sky. I can definitely do it. Then I'll show you too. It'll definitely be like a scene from a wonderful dream. Maria One-chan said that, making an absolute promise with her smile. There's no way I can become a witch. But if Maria One-chan says that, it makes me feel that maybe I really can become a witch, because in reality, on that desolate night when no flower of a smile could possibly have bloomed, her magic surely gave birth to a smile. I wonder if I can become a witch? You can. You're a bit older, so your soul is bound a bit more by gravity. That might make training tougher than it is for me. But you definitely can. After all, you're already touching a small piece of magic. I am? Magic? Yeah. Come on, look. In a wonderful world where I don't exist, you summoned me, and you're talking with me. This is magic. Yeah. You've expanded the fragment of my soul that I left in my diary, and you're reviving me right now. I also said it a short while ago, right? Since you managed to reunite with me and have a conversation, since you're able to smile every once in a while, you must have some magical talent, Angie. Your Maria One-chan guarantees it. Ooh? You said it a second ago, One-chan. I thought I could only meet you while the diary was open, but you're really nearby all the time, right? If I had more of the power of magic, would I be able to see you? And just like now, would I be able to talk with you, One-chan? At any time? Yeah, we can talk at any time. I'm there by your side to say good morning and even during class. Let's talk together during dull classes to distract you from your boredom. I'll be there to talk to you during meals, so let's always be together like this during lunch break. We're with you after school too, and of course I'm always by your side, even after you return to the dormitory. It's just that you don't see me except when the diary is open. Even when I close up the diary, Mariano-chan, you'll be by my side, right? Yes. I'll be there. So if you try to see me and try to talk to me, I'll definitely be able to answer. If you look strongly and try to talk, that is. I'll give it a try. It isn't easy, okay? It isn't going to go well all of a sudden. Got it? I understand. I'm sure it won't be easy. But I want to be like you, Maria One-chan. Ooh, I understand. Then look at me well. Look closely. Okay? Slowly open and close your eyes. You can't shut them for a long time all of a sudden. After burning my form into your eyes, try to make it blend into the inside of your eyelids. Yeah, I'm doing it. Once you can visualize me when your eyes are closed, without changing anything, slowly and softly close your eyes again. How is it? Can you still see me? Yes, I think I can probably see you. Then try opening your eyes for a second. Now for the real thing. Calm your heart and close the diary. At that time, my form may disappear for a second, but calm your heart and don't get anxious. And then try to make the me that's blended into the inside of your eyelids blend back into your eyes. Slowly visualize me in the empty air. In the empty air, see me. Yeah, I'm okay. Then, I'll close the diary. Ooh. Slowly, I closed it. When I did so, a gray reality filled with dull air unfolded. Of course, Maria One-chan's form disappeared. Give it all you've got. Have courage. Take the first step into the world of witches. I felt like Maria One-chan was cheering me on inside my heart. She's cheering me on? Really? Or do I just think that she is? No, that's wrong. It's because I think that I cannot see her. Maria One-chan is always by my side, and even now, she's definitely there, cheering me on to do my best. That reached my ears, so I mustn't ignore it like it's my imagination or the voice of my own heart. I believe that Maria One-chan is there. I mustn't doubt. I believe. One-chan said she'd always be by my side. I must not doubt that. But looking at that empty space by that empty back wall of the school building, amidst those almost heartlessly boring rays of sunlight, calling out her name was unexpectedly difficult. The chains of common sense that had clung to me until today sneered at me, telling me that calling out to the empty air was ridiculous. It was almost like being told to take a step forward off the roof of a skyscraper overlooking a sea of lights. It's Maria One-chan saying it. It's all right. She's saying that I'm someone who can do it. Stop thinking that you might fall or that it'd be foolish to take a step off the roof. And free yourself from those chains of common sense. Phew. Okay. I studied my breathing. I concentrated my mind. Make the vivid form of Maria One-chan in the empty space before you rise to the surface. Understand magic and see Maria One-chan. Maria One-chan? Huh? Is someone there? At that time, I was answered by a rustle in the bushes and a wild cry, and I came to my senses. It looked like I wasn't the only one behind the school building. No, since I'd been so immersed in the world of the diary, I hadn't noticed someone coming. I recognized a group of 3 beyond the bushes. They were kids from my class. From their appearance, it felt as though they'd come behind the school building to gossip about someone or talk in secret. I hurried out of that place, because if it became known that I'd been alone in a place like this, mumbling to myself, it'd become a pain again. She said it right. She said it right. She said Maria One-chan or something, right? Isn't that creepy? She isn't seeing spirits or something, is she? Giggle. Ushiromiya-san's so funny. I could hear the shrill, loud laughter from behind. Irritated and feeling that Maria One-chan had been made fun of, I left that place at a quick pace, and then a jog. Once I turned the corner, and I might have made it to One-chan's world with just a little more time. It was frustrating, aggravating. Why does everyone get in my way? I haven't gotten in anyone else's way, not even once. I ran and ran, but it still felt as though I could hear their shrill laughter. Rumor has it, Anjay-chan, that you jumped off the top of a skyscraper. The groupies were getting annoying, so I thought I'd give them the slip. Angie and an old gentleman wearing an expensive suit were alone in a massive, modern conference room. All of the newest machines for presentations were installed there, but they didn't upset its refined and composed atmosphere, and that alone was enough to make the business-like theme of the room abundantly clear. However, that didn't matter at all to Angie. She carelessly sat on a high-class chair that executives making a salary of several 10 million yen probably sat in, looking aloof from the world. It's because I knew they were remodeling on a lower floor and had a safety net out. Angie talked about it like it was no big deal, but in reality it had been a miracle among miracles. To think that she'd shot through several layers of safety netting for the remodeling project, been caught in a multicolored banner adorning the atrium and slipped off, only to be softly caught by a final banner, land on the ground without a scratch, and then briskly leave that place. It put Hong Kong movies to shame. Whether you knew there was a net or not, this is a 200-meter tall super skyscraper we're talking about, right? If things hadn't gone as you planned, there'd be a mess to deal with now. I figured that if I died, then I'd be dead, and that would be that, more or less. Well, still, I was testing my luck a bit. Call it youthful zeal. As though saying that she'd had enough of that topic, Angie shrugged coldly. Seeing that, the old gentleman who was looking at the world below through a crack in the blinds cackled. So, you were testing your luck, is that it? My, you truly are Kenzo-san's grandchild. The nerve to trust your life to chance. The chairman was also a woman who could stake her life on a bet like it was nothing. So maybe this really is the Ushiromiya blood at work. You really will make it big in the future. Please, let me be blunt. Why not give up this running away from home act and return to Sumadera family? I heard that Mom had a bad relationship with her family. I don't want to go to the house of people I first met at a funeral. The Sumadaras are Mom's family. They're an old family from Kyoto, and compared to Mom's frank attitude, unbelievably strict. The only Sumadara I'd been on good terms with was Grandpa, who was living apart from his family under the guise of retirement. Mom kept in touch with him too, but she avoided the rest of the family completely. Almost hostilely, and it's hostile, but how do I pronounce that with the ly at the end? So when I went out to play with the Sumadara family, it was always Grandpa's house I visited. When I was young, I didn't really understand it. But I hear that Grandpa was in an extremely weak position as a man who'd moved into his wife's family register, and his relationship with Grandma was also bad. You might even say that Grandma hated him and confined him to the house. It isn't hard to imagine that because she had a soft spot for Grandpa alone, Mom was also hated by the Sumadaras. Since I was her daughter. They probably hated me quite a bit too, and yet they appeared for the first time at Mom's funeral, shamelessly going on about how big I'd gotten, like they could actually act like family after all this time. When Aunt Ava died, I would inherit all the wealth of the Ushiromia family. If that wasn't what they were after, there's no way they would have been able to say such disgusting words. Well, it's not as though I can't understand your desire for self-abandonment now that you're all alone. This isn't self-abandonment. I'm just taking a carefree stroll now that that annoying Aunt Ava has finally kicked the bucket. Everyone else is just making too big a deal out of it. Of course, everyone's after the vast Ushiromia wealth I bear. They must think that becoming my guardian means they'll be able to do as they please with that wealth. Just how many people have tried to get close to me, acting like they want to be a substitute parent. If you ever find that you're hurting, please talk with me if it will help, okay? After all, I think of you as my own grandchild, Angie-chan. Ha! I'll say no thank you for now. More importantly, let's return to what we were talking about. Angie-chan, no matter how many times you ask, I am hiding nothing. The chairman was the only survivor of Rokkanjima that day, and she passed away without saying anything. I myself know nothing. Everything is wrapped in darkness, you see. This old gentleman was one of those leaders who had been entrusted with the business group Ava had built up after she passed away. The one he called chairman was the former chairman, Ushiromia Ava. His company once had friendly ties with Hideyoshi's business, and he'd had a close relationship with both Hideyoshi and Ava. For that reason, when Ava lost Hideyoshi, he became the only person to whom Ava might have let her true intentions slip. Whenever Ava's heart was torn by the loss of her family, whenever she took it out on Angie, he had acted as a buffer between the two, so although Angie didn't trust him, she found him a very easy person to question. That crime was, no, that accident. If I call it a crime, I'll get in trouble. I had the same questions about it as the public and the talk shows. At the time of the accident, why was Aunt Ava in a place 2 kilometers away from the mansion all alone, and on the night of a storm? Back then, Kinzo-san was unsure as to whom he should select to be his successor. Officially, he decided on his son Kraus-san, but he didn't have much trust in that man. So, to fairly determine a successor, from among the 4 siblings, he made this game-like test called the Riddle of the Epitaph. Ostensibly, yes. Kinzo-san probably planned to make Ava-san the successor from the beginning. He wanted to withdraw his own rule that the eldest son be the successor and instead of Kraus-san, leave the family to the extremely diligent and brilliant Ava-san. The new rule about giving the inheritance to the one who solved the epitaph was probably nothing more than a farce to snatch the position of successor away from Kraus-san. What do you mean by farce? There was no need for anyone to solve the epitaph. Once it had been displayed for an appropriate amount of time, Kinzo-san could just call Ava-san, whom he truly wanted to succeed him, and give her the answer. In other words, that itself would provide proof of her succession to the headship. This isn't something they've brought up on the talk shows, is it? Well, once you bring up the succession of the headship, conspiracy theories tend to rise to the surface. I'm no fool myself. I won't go out of the way to say things that could invite misunderstandings, you see. This was his theory. At that time, the Ushiromia family head Kinzo, whose remaining life was announced to be short, was troubled by the problem of who was to succeed him. Normally, the successor would be fixed as the oldest son Kraus, whom Kinzo had chosen himself. But in his later years, Kinzo began to think that Ava would make a more fitting family head. However, Kinzo, who was stubborn even against himself, was stymied by the title of successor that he had already given to Kraus, and he'd searched for an official stance by which he could skip over Kraus and select Ava as his successor. That official stance was the Riddle of the Epitaph. The primary successor was still Kraus, but there was a new rule saying that if someone appeared who could solve the riddle, they would be chosen as a successor to the headship. Then, on what would probably be his final family conference, Kinzo told Ava the answer to that riddle himself. In short, it was the same as proclaiming that Ava herself was the successor. On that day, Ava-san was summoned by Kinzo-san, who revealed the answer to her, and so that she could succeed the headship, he called Ava-san to the hidden mansion Kuwadorian, which only the head knew about. And because Aunt Ava arrived at the hidden mansion one step ahead, she escaped harm in that accident, you say. Maybe Aunt Ava just killed everyone and made it look like an accident so she could steal all of the wealth for herself, and maybe that's why only she escaped unharmed. Well, that's what the papers are shouting about. However, I believe Ava-san. I'd say there are several points that justify trusting her. For example, that ring of the Ushiromiya family head, which is on her finger now, Angie-chan. That ring is the only one of its kind in the world, which Kinzo-san had made specially. And the artisan who made it acknowledges that the object on your finger is without a doubt that ring. The Ushiromiya family head's ring. That ring, with the heft of gold and the one-winged seal on it, had a diamond arranged on a pedestal and felt both sturdy and reminiscent of the dark hobbies of the rich. Kinzo had worn that on his finger without removing it even for a moment. This man was saying that the fact that Ava had it proved that Kinzo had acknowledged her as the successor. After all, Ava-san certainly did have that ring, and if you take into consideration that Ava-san actually was talented and that Kraus-san had made a fool of himself several times on the business scene, I cannot imagine that Ava-san's story is completely made up, although there's the possibility that she murdered grandfather in order to steal that ring. Then Aunt Ava, using some kind of trick, massacred everyone and made it look like an accident. Ah, yes. It seems the papers were saying something about her massacring everyone, with keeping all of the wealth to herself as a goal. True, Ava-san was a person capable of holding back nothing when she was determined to accomplish something, or she may have committed murder just once in her life if a chance for keeping all of the Ushiromiya family wealth for herself presented itself. However, I don't think that happened. So, what's the second point that justifies your trust in her? Ava-san's family, Hideyoshi-san and George-kun. It might be difficult for you to believe all of a sudden, Angie-san, but Ava-san was a person who treasured family greatly. True, part of me didn't want to believe it or acknowledge it, but I did understand vaguely. Aunt Ava certainly had been a person who highly treasured her family. After all, the root of her twisted personality had been nothing more than the sadness of losing her beloved husband and son. After getting hit with her angry outbursts as she tried to distract herself from that pain, I have no feelings of sympathy at all, but it's not like I can't imagine how the incredible shock of losing her whole family must have changed her character. You're saying that there's no way Aunt Ava, who loved her family, would throw away her husband and her son? That's right. Even if Ava-san really was the culprit and massacred the entire family, making it look like an accident, she most certainly would have spared her husband and her son. She would quibble that, by coincidence, only her family had been in the hidden mansion. If Hideyoshi and George-kun had been safe, even I would probably suspect Ava-san. I truly cannot imagine that Ava-san's wailing at Hideyoshi-san's funeral was an act. Sounds like both points so far are just circumstantial evidence. That isn't the same as physically proving Aunt Ava's innocence. Ha 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 ha. If you say that, then you're stuck right away. Ava-san was the only survivor, and she says that this is the truth. But no one can prove her innocence. Yes, that's right. And no one can prove that she committed a crime either. And the final point that justifies trusting her is the police. After all, it was such a flashy crime. The police were being pushed forward by a public in an uproar over conspiracy theories, so they must have investigated Ava-san thoroughly. It was easy to feel something unnatural about the claim that Ava had avoided the accident by coincidence, because she alone had escaped to a hidden mansion. Furthermore, at the time, Hideyoshi's company had been right in the middle of a takeover struggle, and in order to buy off that big stockholders, she wanted a large sum of cash. It shouldn't be too hard to find a motive there, but as a matter of fact, there had been nothing at all that implicated Ava as she went to the family conference. Nothing unnatural was found on her that could have been used to brutally murder her family and make it look like an accident. The servants who escaped harm by being off duty on that day also stated that they hadn't seen anything strange regarding anyone related to the event, Ava included. Putting all of that together, it could only be concluded that the Ushiromiya Ava had headed to Rakanjima for a normal family conference without any change, and had encountered an accident. The police looked so intensely and they still couldn't find evidence that it was a crime. They reached that conclusion themselves. Doesn't this resolve the Rakanjima suspicion? That just means that the police couldn't find evidence that it was a crime, right? There's nothing I can say to counter that. It becomes a devil's proof. To expose it as her crime, you would simply need to find evidence. But what could you possibly find to prove her innocence? It's impossible to prove a negative fact. Did Aunt Ava commit a crime or did she not? Because we can't find any materials that'll let us say for sure the truth will remain a mystery. That's what you're saying, right? That's it. Phrased in a manner you would prefer, that's what it amounts to. It was impossible even for Ava-san to prove her own innocence. On that island, an unfortunate accident occurred, and Ava-san survived by chance, and we don't know any more than that. In short, it all comes down to whether you believe the story of the only survivor, Ava-san, or not. I believed. The ring on her and praiseworthy love for her family, and the tears she shed at the funeral. Taking all that into consideration, I decided to believe her story. But I don't believe. If she wanted to steal that ring, there were probably many ways for her to do it, and no one knows if her relationship with her family really was that good. No one can prove that tears at a funeral are real. Anyway, I hated Aunt Ava from the very beginning. So I don't even want to believe her. Ha ha ha. How does one view the truth of the crime? You and I are on completely opposing sides. Even though the information we are given is exactly the same, we interpret it in completely different ways. This happens often in politics and business. The exact same enterprise will always be assessed in multiple differing ways. Do you know why? Why? It's a question of whether one has love. Whether you feel love for someone or not completely changes how you view them. If a person you like gives to the poor, you respect them for it, right? But if someone you hate starts donating, you fiercely protest that it's a publicity stunt or that they're handing out favors. No matter what they do or don't do, you thank them if you have love and criticize them if you don't. That's how the world works. Can Aunt Ava be trusted or can't she? You're saying that's all that really matters. Those who suspect her will probably take anything she does or doesn't do and truly see it as something unnatural, and it works in reverse. As for me, I think that, barring certain extreme cases, truth might not exist in this world at all. No, even if truth does exist, whether you believe it or not is determined by whether you have love or not. Can you really call truth without certainty truth? Even if Ava-san had been able to show physical proof that she had an alibi, would you have been able to believe it? It's hard to counter that. I hate Aunt Ava, so I'll probably deny any information beneficial to her and interpret any neutral information in a negative way. And yeah, but at the same time, a person's character is an important piece of evidence. And at the end of the day, given the way Aunt Ava treated this person, I'd say that makes a bit of circumstantial evidence in its own right. In other words, the truth is already decided inside me, so just what in the world is this truth that I'm still searching for unsatisfied? That's how it is. So no matter what you hear from me, since you still suspect Ava-san after all this time, nothing will change. At the very least, even if you were to grasp a piece of hitherto unknown information, I don't think you'd be able to reach the truth the way you are now. So I can't reach the truth. After all, no matter what kind of new information or proof you find, Angie-san, it won't change your stance that Ava-san is the culprit, right? So it's pointless to investigate anything more, because the truth inside of you is already decided. However, if you stop assuming that to be the truth, if you wish to struggle further towards the deeper real truth, there is a single way. I believe I already mentioned it, but do you know what it is? Is it love? I don't really know what you mean. Right now, you're considering this under the assumption that Ava-san is the culprit, but that's no different from looking at something with a single eye. If with one eye, no matter how much you squint, you cannot see an object in 3 dimensions, right? That's why we have another eye. And of course, it's in a different position from the first eye. You're telling me to look at things based on the supposition that Aunt Ava isn't the culprit, or else that it was a real accident. Yes, that's correct. When thinking about anything, you should always try to look at it from different perspectives. If you don't, you won't understand anything about what is real. It's the same with newspapers. You can't see anything from the single viewpoint of a writer who wrote an article in a single newspaper. Sometimes you can only process information composedly and in 3 dimensions when you read multiple newspapers. Without love, the truth cannot be seen. It sounds like you're more so just saying have critical thinking and have context and just like read and try to read everything you possibly can and like be obsessed with the lore of everything. Sounds nice. Well, maybe he thought it interesting that such a flashy phrase would pop out of his mouth. For a while he laughed, looking pleased. At the same time, he was telling me that he'd said everything he knew and that it was about time to leave. I understood that and got to my feet. I do understand your feelings, Angie-chan. You should do as you like for a while, until you are satisfied. You were 6 years old at the time. I understand how you must feel after losing your family before you could even understand what that meant, and how you must still be unable to sort out your heart. You may learn the truth, and you may not. Ava-san may be the culprit, and she may be a victim. I pray that you find the truth you believe in, Angie-chan. A journey at such a young age may prove to be a valuable experience. Thank you very much. I'm truly sorry to be such a bother when you are so busy, Okanogi-san. That's the same name that was used in a different game. Also similar character design. No trouble, no trouble. What are you going to do now? Well, whatever works. I've made appointments with several specialists and people related to the crime, and I plan to go visit them. I see. I hope you find an answer you can accept. At that time, company president Okanogi's secretary came in, handing him a memo over his shoulder. He read it and then looked between it and my face. Angie-chan? My apologies that this comes right after telling you to try going on a journey, but I have some information you should lend an ear to. It looks like you're in a bit of a nasty fix right now. People after my money? This is why money's stupid. Yes, but if you sell off all of the wealth trying to donate the whole sum to public welfare, you'll make the eyes pop out of those people optimistic about their chances with your fortune. Oh, the Sumadara family. Those guys act so proud like they're my guards or something. I haven't forgotten Aunt Ava. There's no way I'll put myself in the care of the Sumadara family. They probably want to, as Aunt Ava often threatened in the past, cut off my arms and legs and throw me in a warehouse and suck the Ushiromiya family's wealth dry. Apparently a messenger from the Sumadara family is coming here. They're saying to hand you over. No, that they want to protect you. A messenger, you say. It's your aunt, Kairi-san's younger sister. I believe she told me earlier that she thinks of you as a little sister. She's gotta be joking. At least call me a granddaughter, you old hag. Judging from the context, it seems that they have no wish to listen to your desires. I have a car waiting in the parking lot 2 stories underground. Go. The Sumadara family is telling you to hand me over. Is it really okay to let me go? You will definitely become something big in the future, Angie-chan. Let us call this a favor to be repaid upon your success. Go quickly. After bowing silently and deeply, Angie left that place at a dash. After watching her leave, the female secretary straightened her glasses and whispered, "The Sumadara family told us to stall her. Is it really okay, really all right to let her go?" We did stall her, more than enough. If they still don't make it in time, that's their own fault. I told Angie-chan to run for it. I informed the Sumadaras that Angie-chan would be coming. Whether she's caught or not, I will not be blamed. Everything in this world is love, you see. don't worry, she'll escape. After all, that child's capable of leaping off a building to shake pursuers. Okanogi looked down again through a crack in the blinds, muttering, nope, definitely couldn't do it. Angie wasn't a fool herself. She got off the elevator, but on the 3rd floor. A taxi in the 2nd level of the basement that's so neat and clean that I don't like it. It's probably better to refuse for now. But my enemies aren't fools either. They're probably waiting in the 1st floor lobby as well as the underground parking lot. It's such a massive building. Instead of getting anxious and escaping outside, maybe it's better to stay inside and wait it out. No, that's useless. If they get their hands on a security room in a modern building like this, I'll have nowhere to run to. This entire building is like a massive dead end. The 3rd floor is the business floor. A young girl like me will clearly stick out. Trying not to stand out any more than I had to, I walked at a brisk pace, searching for an emergency exit. It'd be perfect if that staircase was an outside one. I found the door to the emergency exit. After opening that heavy door, I found the outside staircase I'd hoped for. I bumped into a man who looked like an employee skipping work and smoking a cigarette. After glaring at me, he quickly crushed out a cigarette and went away. It looked like there was no one below. If I'm going to escape, now is my only chance. Just when I thought that, a black car slid right under me and came to a sudden stop with an incredible squealing of the tires. Judging by the sound of the tires, it seemed they had several other allies and that one of them had come here to block this path. Not bad, Aunt Kasumi. To think you'd even send... Or is it Kasumi? To think you'd even send a car to pick up your little sister when she's trying to get out through the emergency exit. Bam bam, the doors of the car were forcefully open, and 3 black-suited men jumped out, looking up at the emergency staircase. Crap, our eyes met. 12. Target found. Northwest side, emergency stairs. 3rd floor, send support. Anji-sama! Try not to move from there. Forgive our roughness. The 3 of them began to clamber up the emergency exit. They've already announced that they plan to be rough. This is pretty bad. As long as I don't stop breathing, they've probably been ordered to grab me no matter what, even if they gotta rip out one of my arms. Clank, 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 clank. Their heavy, wild footsteps became a helix and began to rise from the lower floors, getting closer. In the entrance lobby of the building, a woman with 7 black-suited guards behind her advanced at a leisurely pace. Seeing this ostentatious entrance, the security guards for the building ran up to them, asking if they had an appointment. How typical of Tokyo people. Okanogi Tetsurao, a leading member of the Ushiromiya group between the time of Ava's death and Angie succeeding her position. Management of the group has fallen to core members like him in her stead. However, Angie has no desire to inherit the role. As Lunar drinks a Capri Sun. This time I got the strawberry kiwi flavor. The Pacific Cooler's better. Leaving the group on the brink of fracturing internally and putting Okanogi in a difficult position. He was once the president of a foodstuffs distribution company and had an intimate relation with Hideyoshi's business. Because of that long-lasting association, Ava trusted him particularly, and he was appointed to an important post within the group. Even after throwing herself off the top of a skyscraper, she why can't I say that? Miracle. Miraculously. Miraculously. Why can't I fucking say that word? Miraculously. God damn it. I can't say that. Miraculously. Miraculous. Fucking why? She threw away everything and went on a journey by herself to learn her past. Can she break through Beatrice's magic from her position 12 years in the future? Ushiromiya Eva, after being repeatedly hospitalized because of psychogenic stress, she has already died in the world of 1998 due to an acute heart failure. She lived her later years in isolation with no one to understand her, and is the only survivor of Rakanjima. The media gave her the name Queen of Suspicion. She continued to make reckless expansions of her business, just like Kinzo had done in the past, which earned her many enemies. By her later years, she was doing it merely to harass people, as if she enjoyed it, rather than for financial gain. And it was all done for the sake of Angie, who would eventually succeed her. Don't you understand the status of the person you are talking to without her having to say her name? My apologies. At our company, guests are to take a security back down, scum. I came because I was called by your president. Call Okanogi Tetsuro here. To think he would call me here and then not welcome me. How typical of Tokyo people. My apologies. Welcome to the Ushiromiya Group Sumadara Kasumi-san. Do you guys remember the fighter called Dead or Alive? Which one do you guys think is better? Dead or Alive or Soul Calibur? Or Dead or Alive or Tekken? Even though both of them wore bold smiles, they were wrapped in attention reminiscent of the smell of gunpowder. Where is Angie? I came to greet that adorable daughter of my big sisters. Strict observance of time is our motto here at the Ushiromiya Group. The former chairman herself said that those who can't keep time can't keep contracts. You called me all the way to Tokyo, and this is all you have to show for it. You let her go, didn't you? Please, she escaped from us. We did stall her for quite some time, but unsurprisingly, she did eventually smell a rat. Of course, this wouldn't have been a problem at all if you had arrived on time, Sumadara-san. Ah, these provincials and their loose concept of time. Wahaha. What was that? What did you say to me? You couldn't sense any of Kairi's open frankness in Kasumi's face. She wore the arrogance of the ancient Sumadara family towards the ruined Ushiromiya family, as well as a pride because she didn't want anyone to notice that her family was declining so much that they couldn't ignore the Ushiromiya family's wealth. Even at a glance, it was easy to understand why Angie hated her aunt so deeply. She couldn't stand even a slight insult, and though she still smiled, her eyebrow twitched. At that time, the black-suited man behind Kasumi whispered to her, Angie-sama has been found. We are currently dealing with her. Oh, I'm glad we made it in time. Thank you, Okanogi. It seems I can finally take my mischievous niece home. I've waited so long to talk with that girl in my tea room with all of the tools prepared. Heh 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 heh. Hee 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 hee. Clink, 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 clink. As the violent sound drew a helix, it rushed up at me from below, threatening to swallow me up. Of course, even if I fight, there's no way I'll be able to win, and yet running into the building would be like jumping into a dead end of my own accord. My enemies will increase in number with time. If I don't do something here and now, I won't have any more chances to escape. Then, 3 muscular black-suited men came into view below me. 1, 2, 3. 3 people. In other words, everyone who had gotten out of the car. If there had been just one of them, I might be able to dropkick them or something and smash them in the head, which might work out. But it really would be impossible with 3 of them. Wait, 3? If there's just 3, I should be able to make it. I can do it. Take a deep breath. Ha! What? You idiot, stop! Look out! Wow. 01 calling 12. Is the package secure? We received a response. What happened? Respond. She's crazy. Damn it. Ow, ow. See, that worked out perfectly, didn't it? There was just 3 of them after all. I've already tried that once from a higher place. I knew I'd be able to jump down just 3 floors. It's a good thing the car they came in was right beneath me. Even if it wasn't as pleasant as a trampoline, it broke my fall a little gently, a little roughly. How rude. You didn't have to dent that much. The roof of the car broke my fall, leaving a massive dent around my body. Honestly, I'm pretty sure if I jumped from 3 stories, regardless of how I land, I'm breaking every bone in my body. Like, I don't think Jackie Chan would recommend this. Car roofs are surprisingly delicate. I don't think it's because of my weight. Apparently, the 3 people on the stairs hadn't planned on me jumping down. It seemed they now realized that they had been outwitted, and they were rushing down the stairs. I've got to run and escape while I have the chance. I moved my body, making clunking sounds on the car roof. But I'd been naive. Of course, they wouldn't all rush up the stairs without leaving one person behind. There was one black-suited man left in the driver's seat of the car that had broken my fall. He stuck his head out the window, and when he realized what had fallen on him, he jumped out. In a rush, I jumped off the roof, but the black-suited man's reaction was really fast. Either there was a massive reward for capturing me, or there'd be some harsh punishment in store for them if they let me get away. 15, secured. Ow, 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 ow. Ack, don't touch me like that. Let go. I was mercilessly held down against the asphalt. I was being crushed face down, covered and pressed upon from above. It was a hold without a trace of elegance, but it was extremely practical and left me no room for resistance. I tried to push back with both hands, searching for a way to resist, but I was being pushed down solidly and I couldn't even tear myself off the asphalt. Then another car came, squealing its tires as it slid to a sudden stop. Is it all over now? Yeah! The man that had been crushing me let out a sharp cry. He was yelling straight into my ear, making my left ear ring. What in the world? Along with the black suit guy, I fell with a thunk. After landing face up, the first thing I saw was an arm stuck out right in front of my eyes. Amukasa? What are you doing here? Let's talk about that after we've lost them. Amukasa, what are you doing here? Sumadara Kasumi, daughter of the declining noble family Sumadara, Ushiromi Kairi's younger sister. She despises her sister and by extension Angie as well. She's the opposite of the freewheeling person Kairi once was, and holds appearance in high regard, possessing a strong ambition for philanthropy. However, this is all just a craving for the limelight caused by the complex she has towards her sister. There are several opposing factions in the Sumadara family, and they're constantly engaged in a secret feud over who will control the vast wealth Angie holds. Ushiromi Kairi. Oh, that's a different thing. Lambda Delta, the Witch of Certainty, who has lived for 1,000 years, she thinks of Beatrice's game as a birdcage enclosing Burn Castell. Her goal is an eternal tie. She'll ally with Beatrice as a general rule, but she'll support Battler when it looks like he's about to resign. Then, when it looks like Beatrice is about to be cornered, she'll start supporting the Witch again. The willpower of certainty is far stronger than the endless, which just repeats over and over idly. Burn Castell, the Witch of Miracles who has lived for 1,000 years. To defeat Beatrice in her game, she threw in a piece called Angie. The Voyager witches who cross the Sea of Fragments are beings far superior to the witches who cannot leave their own territories. While they may be on even footing inside this territory, her true magical power far surpasses that of Beatrice, what is sought by those witches who repeatedly voyage in an attempt to escape boredom. Ushiromia Maria, a little magician who has inherited the black blood from Kenzo. Why does that feel like a Soul Eater reference with Chrono Gorgon? Unlike Kenzo, she was gifted with talent and began to tread the path of the magician from a young age. However, her power is still weak and she hasn't yet graduated from an apprentice level. However, she is skilled with enchantments, which bestow magical power upon objects, and the magical items she creates are all master class. To the car, quickly, lady. Amokasa grabbed my arm, easily pulled me up, spinning me around with himself as the center of gravity. Just when I thought it was a little like a dance, he flung me through the open door into the driver's seat. I climbed over the handbrake and slid into the passenger's seat. Pushing me in, Amokasa also got into the driver's seat. Since we suddenly accelerated while I was still on all fours, I had to kick and struggle around on the chair for a while like a turtle that's been flipped over. Amokasa checked the rear-view mirror for cars in pursuit, but he flew into the artery of the big city without lowering his speed in the slightest. We sewed our way between cars, one after another, just like a chase scene in some action movie. I was shaken by this horrible driving and had trouble sitting back down. "Are you hurt, lady?" "I'm fine. Humans are surprisingly durable. Next time I try to escape a downward-moving elevator, I'll jump out a window instead." "Yeah, I guess air dives are a hobby of yours, lady. Still, I'd recommend you grab a parachute next time." "Sure, if I remember to do it after leaping." "Haha, cool." He smacked the steering wheel, guffawing. "Need an explanation for this flippantly talking man? His name is Amukasa Juza. He was originally one of Aunt Ava's guards. Didn't she start to hate him because he chatted too much? He was much younger than the rest of the guards, but contrary to his outward flippancy, he'd hopped from the 1st Airborne of the JSDF to the French Foreign Legion, placing himself in overseas private military companies and high-class security companies one after another, making for a pretty incredible and unique career. But I heard he deserted both the JSDF and the French Foreign Legion, and that he'll be arrested if he enters France again. Both of these flippant episodes were very typical of him. The guards were sternly told not to chat with me unnecessarily, but he came and took a pass at me, didn't he? Aunt Ava was apparently particularly put off by that and had supposedly dismissed him shortly before she died. It's been a while since I've heard that carefree tone. What happened after you got fired? I was coaching some people at Blackwater. When I came back to the country during my time off, President Okanogi offered me a high wage. So you deserted again? I wonder how a man like that can be useful for anything. Doesn't count as desertion as long as I come back by next week. I talked with him yesterday. I was told that some troublesome people might come to call on you, lady. Sorry, that turned out to be exactly right. My name's probably come up since I know you, and I've got lots of crazy experience. Thanks to you, it looks like I'm in for a happy vacation plus some pocket money. Oh, so Okanogi-san employed you as my guard? He probably wants to buy some gratitude from you, lady. After I got fired, I was indebted to President Okanogi in various ways. He's got some dirt on me here and there, and now I can't say no to him. Yeah, ha ha ha. Seems that getting indebted to Okanogi-san can be pretty costly later on. So, where are you planning on taking me? Anywhere. I'm employed until the weekend. Anything after that'll cost you extra. How much per day? I'll take 50,000, plus expenses. If you stop cracking jokes, I'll double it. The period of employment isn't fixed yet. It might take several weeks. That'll be tough. I'll have to call my boss to get an extension on my vacation. More than anything, I want to investigate that day. Oh, is this about Rakanjima? Exactly. What happened on that island 12 years ago? I want to investigate it with my own hands to my satisfaction. Do you really expect to find anything new after investigating something that old? True. But this is a journey for my own self-satisfaction. Once that's over, I'll just throw my hands up and go over to the Sumadara family. Did not Katsumi say something about how she wanted to serve me some matcha? Maybe she'll serve me tea as I kneel on sharp wooden blocks, clutching stones or something. Damn, that sounds freaky, yeah. My apologies. We lost sight of them. Amakusa? Amakasa? Amakusa? Juza? A former guard of Ava's, he's fundamentally a thrill seeker, willing to take on dangerous jobs for very little pay. At one point he did work as a guard for Angie, but after repeatedly violating Ava's strict orders not to speak to her, Ava grew to dislike him and fired him. Angie seemed not to mind having him around, as he would often chat with her. This man, who has traveled between the Japan Self-Defense Force and the Foreign Legion, and non-government military companies, has skill in counter-sniping and protecting VIPs. Well, thanks for hanging out with me, everyone. Until next time, bye.